Imagine for a moment that you're out camping alone in the woods on a dark and quiet night when suddenly you hear something very much like that. Well, my friends, if Bigfoot is indeed real, then that is something you could quite possibly encounter in your life should you spend much time out in the woods at night, especially if you live close to one of these dots on the Bigfoot sightings map. Bigfoot sightings have been made in far more locations than you would expect, and there could potentially be one of the creatures living not far from your very doorstep. And Bigfoot is not alone. In Australia, they have the Yowie, and in Russia, Nepal, and that area of the globe, they have the Yeti. Whether or not Bigfoot, the Yeti, and Yowie are the same creature, of course, won't be determined for certain until sometime after we at least have definitive proof that he actually exists. But I think it's safe to assume that if they do all exist, then the Yeti, Yowie, and Bigfoot are at the very least closely related. The Yeti, however, may have a darker side to it. Back in February of 1959, a group of 9 Russian college students may have very well awoken in the night to something very much like what you heard a few moments ago. They were out on a hiking trip in the Ural Mountains, and not a single one returned alive. After about 2 weeks, a search party was sent out. The exact events that occurred that night remain a mystery. However, from examining the site and bodies, they were able to determine a few potential clues. First of all, it appeared that the students were attacked at night. Something frightened them so badly that several of them cut their way out of their tents and ran off barefoot and virtually naked despite the freezing weather. Some of the students had attempted to climb trees to escape whatever it was that was hunting them, but to no avail. While some of the students may have died from hypothermia, as was the official government report, one of the doctors working on the case determined that a number of the students had been killed by something possessing strength much greater than that of a normal man, with force equal to that of a car crash. The search party discovered many of the students dead, with their corpses mangled and skulls that had been smashed in, among other injuries such as one girl who had had one of her eyes and tongue ripped out as well. Perhaps the best clue of what happened to the students may be this single photograph. This was one of the last pictures to be taken by the students before their death. Could this be the very Yeti or creature that killed them? Unfortunately, we'll never know. One additional piece of evidence with this case that I do not personally know what to make of is that there have been reports of students' clothing found with traces of radiation. Although in my research on Bigfoot, I have found a strange correlation between Bigfoot sightings and UFO sightings as well. And if you are perhaps unaware, there have been a number of reports of radiation being linked to UFO sightings. Of course, there have been similar stories of Bigfoot ambushing people on horseback in California. And I do mean the people were on horseback, not Bigfoot. But it does appear that it was the horses that the creature was actually after, as the riders escaped with their lives. While the horses were later discovered, at least partially, a few years afterwards, along with some deer in that same area, that appeared to have actually been ripped apart by something's bare hands. Anyways, spooky stories of Bigfoot and Yetis aside, there has been a remarkable amount of evidence collected over the years to help prove the existence of the big guys. One such piece of evidence was the recording you heard at the beginning of this video. I have gone through and found a few different recordings of them and done my best to enhance and clean up the audio, and I have to say that I'm fairly pleased with the results. I may not be an audio expert, but the recordings you will hear here are much improved over what you would hear if you were to play them from the various Bigfoot sites where I originally found them. For example, I will play a short clip of an original and then my enhanced version. Rather than simply discussing the evidence of Bigfoot's existence, I think we will actually try to answer the question of what exactly Bigfoot is, and we will use the evidence gathered from various sources to help us make that determination. However, I believe that will be for another time in part 2 of our Bigfoot Encounter series. I hope that you'll join us again soon as we take an objective look at the proof of Bigfoot's existence, as we try to figure out exactly what he, the Yeti, and the Yowie are, as we attempt to separate the hoaxes from reality. As always, if you enjoy our videos, I hope you'll like and subscribe if you've not already, and we will see you again soon for part 2. Thank you very much.